between 200 and 300 of the highest-ranking intellectuals in the country were arrested. Most of them did not survive longer than a few months. The beginning of the atrocities against the Armenians. It is said that if you cut off the head, the body can't live. And that was an attempt to cut off our head. But we are proof that the body lives. We're here to remember those survivors. And what better words to use than those of Henry Morgenthau, a man of Jewish descent, who was the U.S. ambassador to Turkey when this began. I read his words. Practically all of the government authorities were atheists, with no more respect for Mohammedanism than Christianity, and with them, the one motive was cold-blooded, calculating state policy. One day I was discussing these proceedings with a responsible Turkish official who was describing the tortures inflicted. He made no secret of the fact that the government had instigated them, and like all Turks of official classes, he enthusiastically approved this treatment of the detested race. This official told me that all these details were matters of nightly discussion at the headquarters of the Union and Progress Committee. Each new method of inflicting pain was hailed as a splendid discovery, and the regular attendants were constantly ransacking their brains in an effort to devise some new torment. He told me that they even delved into the records of the Spanish Inquisition and other historic institutions of torture and adopted all the suggestions found there. He did not tell me who carried off the prize in this gruesome competition, but common reputation throughout Armenia gave a preeminent infamy to the Valley of Van. All through this country, he was generally known as the horseshoer of Pascala. For this connoisseur in torture had invented what was perhaps the masterpiece of all, that of nailing horseshoes to the feet of his Armenian victims. Yet these happenings did not constitute what the newspapers of the time commonly referred to as the Armenian atrocities. They were merely the preparatory steps in the destruction of the race. The young Turks displayed greater ingenuity than their predecessor, Abdülhamid. The injunction of the deposed Sultan was merely to kill, whereas the Turkish democracy hit upon an entirely new plan. Instead of massacring outright the Armenian race, they now decided to deport it. In the south and southeastern sections of the Ottoman Empire lie the Syrian desert and the Mesopotamian valley. When the Turkish authorities gave the orders for these deportations, they were merely giving the death warrant to a whole race. They understood this well, and in their conversations with me, they made no particular attempt to conceal the fact. Now imagine tonight, or sometime today, or sometime in your future, when you're having a quiet moment, that there's a knock at your door, and you're told you're leaving. If you were a man, your fate was quick. You were marched out of town, generally, and shot in a ditch. If you were a woman or a child, it was much more gruesome. You were marched off into the desert. We're here today to honor the memory of those who gave their lives, not by choice, but by circumstance. When we raise this flag in a minute, you will note the three colors, the red at the top, the blue in the middle, and the orange apricot at the bottom. This flag was adopted in 1918 and readopted in 1991 when our republic was formed. The top color, the red, stands for the blood of our Armenian martyrs. The blue stands for the blue sky. And if you've been to Armenia, you understand that, because actually this is a Yerevan day. Yerevan, our capital, has over 300 days of sunshine a year, and the sky is very important to us. And then the bottom color, the orange apricot, represents the fertile land and the farmers who farm it. And if you know we are Armenians, all of our fathers, they all had something I thought was a green thumb. They could make anything grow. My father's 87 years old, and I go to his yard, and he takes a stick and puts it in the ground, and a year later, we've got figs coming out of a tree. We're lucky. We're going to try to play our national anthem. We don't have very large speakers when the flag is raised. And after I finish reading this one poem, our dead hire is going to say a prayer in honor of those who have lost their lives. Obanus Tumanyan is one of our great poets, and I think this poem of his is an appropriate lament for those who have gone before us. In the Armenian highlands, the way was heavy and the night was dark, and yet we survived both sorrow and gloom. Through the ages we go and gaze at the stark steep heights of our land, the Armenian highlands. We carry from old our treasure vast as the sea, brought into life by the great soul of our people in our lofty land, the Armenian highlands. How many times the savage hordes from the blazing desert tore and tormented our caravan in our blood-smeared land, the Armenian highlands. Yet plundered and scattered, our caravan sought its way out from among the rocks, counting the scars of its countless wounds in our mournful land, the Armenian highlands. And we gaze with dolorous, longing eyes at the earth in its gloom, at the distant stars. Ah, when will the dawn break at last over our green Armenian highlands?
Before the day is over tonight at 7 o'clock, at the library of our church, where this book and many such books are gathered for our reading, instruction, and pleasure, we will have an informal discussion on what today means to us to share, a day of sharing and a day of remembrance. On the occasion of any gathering of this kind, the church has the following prayer, which I shall first begin in the language of the martyrs, in Armenian, and then the translation for all of us to understand. Ortutun եւ փառքոր եւ որդու եւ օգնասրբով, այժմ եւ միշտ հավիտ Յանս հավիտենից ամեն, դեր ողորմիա, դեր ողորմիա, դեր ողորմիա. Քրիստոս, Որդի Աստուծո, անոխագալ եւ բարեգույն, դու դու արարչագալ սիրով, որի սանկության ծառայից մանավանդ 1.5 միլիոն երկար եւ ոչ մերոց մոտ անվան ընթացից առաջին պատերազմին իշա հավերվեցի պատասխանատվան, որ արարժանի ողորմության, կավության եւ կողության եղած տասավորյալ պայծառություն շտուզու հայժողորման տասում դիտվեսներ եւ անալիչ ամենեցնում դատավոր գենտանիացել մերելով դիտվես վայել եւ պարտիշխանություն ինքադի. Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy. God of souls and creator of bodies, Lord of the living and resurrection of the dead, bestower of goodness and comforter of all in grief, and giver of rest to those who have fallen asleep in faith. You promised through the coming of your only begotten Son into this world with an indefinite promise to raise the dead and to say with your almighty and powerful word, come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Therefore, our Lord God, rest on behalf of your soul, who gave their lives for their faith, because it presencia